Ready, who's next?
Tommy, our next guest is Matthew Collins.
Hey, Matthew.
All right, you all right?
How are you, fella?
I'm good, mate. I'm all right.
Sit down there. I thought you had an English look about you when you walked out.
That's the makeup.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's your story, Matthew?
I'm a former neo-Nazi who changed sides, went to work for the opposition, and then I began recruiting people inside neo-Nazi organisations. And in 2017, me and one of my spies inside a group called National Action stopped an MP and a policewoman being murdered. And I think it's on TV here now, called The Walk-In, starring Stephen Graham. It's on Virgin, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody seen it?
Wow. So.
Yeah.
Relax. Take me through that. Take me through becoming
A neo-Nazi?
Yeah.
I was born in South London in the 1970s. I think my parents separated when I was 5, divorced, and my father was Irish, was an Irish immigrant. And I felt this, I guess, pop psychology and all that, which I get a lot of. He ran off with my babysitter, who was a black woman. And that might have had an effect on the way I felt about people of colour and Irish people for a long time. And the 1970s in London, I guess people here will have worked in London and or in England, and National Front was massive. On every wall, NF, NF, black people out, Irish go home. And so I joined the National Front when I was 15.
So you would have gone to school, though, with black kids?
Yeah, in South London, yeah. I hated them with a passion.
While you were in school?
Yep.
Why?
Because we had nothing. I mean, we were piss poor. We were really poor. There was four boys and a mum and a council estate. We had nothing. And the way that you sort of reason your life is that, and I see this all the time now with people who are racists, is this idea of loss. That this country's not as good as it was. This country's not as great as it could be. Where am I going to get a job? Where am I going to, am I ever going to get a house or a home or somewhere to live? And these are difficult questions for young people. And the answers that I drew were, these foreigners have taken it.
It's not a very smart answer.
No, but I never said I was smart. But the thing about it is it's actually quite a complex question.
Yeah.
And the answers are complex and difficult to explain to people, particularly people who don't want long-winded answers. I wanted the immediate solution. So, my idea and our idea of Britain was to get rid of everyone, which actually we've done since Brexit, and I can tell you it don't work out too well.
Yeah.
And I was in the National Front. I worked for them full-time. They actually gave me a job because I didn't have like a tattoo on my head. They thought I was presentable. And I went with the British National Party and then Combat 18. And then I just thought one day after a particularly violent, quite a disgusting and violent incident, I thought, I can't, this is getting me nowhere. These are not the solutions to our problems. And we took part in a really violent assault on a group of women above a library. And that was, as fascists do, us defending our free speech, and did some horrific things to women who were holding a meeting about, do we want racist organising in our community? And so they had a public meeting, almost completely women, some of them with Asian heritage, the sort of people who you'd see on a Saturday out trying to save a hospital, trying to stop a library being closed, or campaigning to improve the community. And we went along and said, our freedom of speech, our right to defend ourselves. And we went in there and we attacked them. I mean, really attacked them, smashed chairs into their heads, kicked them in the face, And it was halfway through that I just thought, gee whiz, this is not going to get me anywhere, and this is not the solution. All the words that I would say this deliberately to people, you hear all these words, send them back, or don't give them this and all that, and they hear robbing us and stealing us. What underpins all of those words of hatred is violence, absolute violence. And there I was, it was all unfolding around me. And the next day I made contacts with anti-fascists. I said, I got to tell you what I did last night. Here are the names of the people who carried out the assault. And I kept giving information to anti-fascists, and then things progressed until eventually this Well Done Action did a documentary on Combat 18, and Combat 18 said, we think that was Collins who did that. And suddenly, when they thought it was me, I became very Irish. Well, he is a paddy after all. I was like, thank you. So I went to live in Australia for 10 years, and I came back in 2003, and the idea was that we need people to disrupt this. We need people inside these organisations. First of all, to bring people out. So tell them your story, tell them how you realise all this is wrong. And then secondly, some that would stay in there and perform quite dangerous tasks, but help us disrupt them.
How does it feel? Do you feel forgiven for what you've done?
Never asked for forgiveness. I don't know why. I've never asked for forgiveness. Years later, the BBC did a documentary on me called Dead Man Walking, which wasn't very helpful. And I went to meet a woman who hadn't left the house for 20 years because of it. She was terrified. She became claustrophobic and agoraphobic. She went through years and years of getting hate phone calls from people threatening to kill her. And she'd been at the meeting, and she didn't forgive me, but she invited me into the house for a cup of tea, and we talked about it. But I'd never asked for forgiveness. I don't think I want forgiveness. I'm not driven by wanting to be forgiven. I'm driven by a genuine desire to get rid of these racists and these fascists out of Britain. Simple as that.
Are you in danger?
A little bit. Quite often I get death threats, or, because I've obviously got old enemies, and in the last 30 years, I've made lots of new enemies. So I've been kicked in the face a few times, I've had death threats. The most worrying thing was in 2017, the Nazi group were talking about teaching me a lesson by raping my mother. She was 74 at the time. And I had to go and tell her that, look, these people said they're going to rape you. And she said, why would they rape me? I said, because I really pissed them off. And she said, let's have a cup of tea. And then when I was at the Old Bailey, my missus rang me up. Said, the police have come to the house. I've got to go and get the kids from school because there's a credible threat against our children. Because these people now see people like me and people who know and understand them and campaign against, and obviously stopped one of their murder plots. The way to punish me is to rape my children, rape my mother, rape my children. So I change address quite regularly, which is problematic because after we moved, the missus won't talk to me for about a year. Takes her, she says, well, we've got to start painting and decorating. And I said, I've got a job on, I'll be back in a couple of weeks. So it's quite an unsettled life.
Geez, there's so much ugly blood in all of that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's getting worse. I think it's getting worse. The language people use, the actions of people, the rise and the tide of violence.
People who are in those organisations now and back then, what do they collect in terms of information? And what are they drawn to in terms of verbal ammunition or stories for what they want to do? Well,
conspiracy theory is a big one. One of the things I try not to do is to belittle those people, because I realise that sometimes these things are symptoms of other things.
Sure.
and other problems. Conspiracy theories are huge. And I think one of the other things is, how do they make sense of the society?
Yeah.
And fascism is basically a panic. people in panic about that, worrying about their part in society or their country's falling importance. So they collect, I think, a lot of warped untruths and ideas about other people.
And they would be what? What would those ideas be?
The world is run by lizards and paedophiles. You must know about this lizard people kind of thing.
David Icke.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of really quite nasty things. And, you know, you've probably got the same sort of thing happening here in some, you know, not those Englishmen. I'm going to come here and talk about, you know, Irish politics, because that doesn't end out well. But you've got people here in Ireland saying the same things, standing outside hotels. And I think the issues in Ireland are pretty similar. Housing shortages, stuff like that. And I think
it just seems remarkably unintelligent to me.
Well, I was about to say, it's like good and intelligent conversation has died. I wish we would just cut the internet off for a week, and everyone just go to the pub and have a chat instead of listening to the nonsense on the internet.
Is it too easy for us to dismiss them as, even to say the word, or, you know, X is a fascist? It just sounds so stupid. Is it too easy to dismiss it as just...
Well, I mean, fascism is actually, as an ideology, very difficult to quantify or qualify, because each country has its own cultural characteristics, which plays into fascism. But generally, you know, you would say that if someone is running around screaming that they need a new strong leader and democracy's failed, we all need to wear uniforms, we need to get women out of jobs and get them pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen, and we need to get rid of foreigners, and there's a secret society controlling our finances, plus lizards may be in control of the world, you'd say that person's probably displaying symptoms of fascism. Fascism, in real terms, is probably like a disease. But the other thing that's really important, and it always comes out time and time again, is that actually we've still got a lot going for us. There are still more good guys and girls than there are these bad guys and girls. There are still more sensible, caring and human people than there are these absolute, can I say bollocks? Yeah. They're absolute bollocks. I say I want to live in a civilised society. And Irish people would say England's not been civilised for 800 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not that much to ask. Why can't we just be civilised and decent?
Did you ever make it up with your dad?
Yeah, I think so. He died at Christmas, Christmas Eve, and I remarked to him, "That's the 50th Christmas you've ruined." I did make it up. We did make it. Like everything else, I just got older and I understood. I've been married and I've had kids. I understood what it's like to want to jog on with the babysitter. But I made it up with him. It was nice. It was. He had a proper Irish funeral on the day, and of course he worked for British Rail for 45 years, and on the day of his funeral there was a rail strike. He would have liked that.
Good luck with the work, and thank you for being so honest.
I loved it. It was
in
brilliant.
Your storytelling. Matthew, fair play to you. Thank you.
Yes, mate.
Matthew Collins, everybody. Cheerio. Welcome back to the third half, everybody. Freddie, who's next?
Well, Tommy, our next guest is Rebecca Talon de Havilland.